what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome back to episode 2 of Video Game Adaptations with my co-host, Kat Velour.
Hi.
We are saddened to say that we did not get to do The Last of Us for February.
No. We did not.
Yeah.
It was hard because the episode where we said that we were going to do that dropped right after I found out that we would not be able to do it.
I
I was listening the
know.
next day, and it's like, oh, God damn it.
And we said it so many. I tried to. No, did I already edit it? I can't remember. But I remember thinking like we said it so many times.
We were so excited.
We were. And then we found out it was going to be weekly and we weren't going to be able to binge it. And thankfully, like short thought is that like at least it's been worth it so far. But then I don't know if you saw this, but so they didn't want to air it on the Super Bowl Sunday, so they're actually giving it to us 2 days early for the week of Super Bowl.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so we'll get it Friday instead of it. I don't know. I guess skipping a week would have been the other option, I'm assuming, or I don't know.
So I saw that it was getting moved. I thought we were going to be skipping a week, and I was pissed as hell. Like, no. Because that sounds more like something HBO would do.
Yeah, I mean, especially after the making it weekly, and it's like, and everyone's like, oh, well, they like getting the numbers. It's like, okay, so adjust the algorithm. Like, this is like binge culture. Like, no one wants to wait a week. But like I said, thankfully, it has been worth it. So we are fairly confident we will be covering this in March.
Yes.
So, sorry, we're not doing Last of Us yet, but this was one of the other ones obviously on the list. So instead today we're going to be talking about Doom.
Yes.
My first video game ever, probably. Real video game.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, because I don't think I'm trying to think. I don't think I did consoles or anything when I was that young. I'm pretty sure the only thing we had at that time was like a giant ass computer, and my brother and I fought over playing this, and Tomb Raider was the other one. So those were the two games that I got introduced to early on, was this one and Tomb Raider. So, but anyway, but yeah.
For me, it was me and my cousin, because we grew up in a house together.
Yeah.
She was older than me, so I would get away with playing a lot of stuff from her computer. And for me, it was Tomb Raider and Quake, though. It was like a big Quake household.
Yeah.
And I didn't play Doom, I think, until I was an adult, and it was so funny because I was telling people for like the longest time, like my whole thing was 90s FPS games, and everyone's like Doom, and I was like, not Doom.
Doom.
Not that one, but I did finally go back and fill it in where it's like I've got to play this, and it's so good. I don't know why I avoided it for so long.
Yeah,
I guess I just thought like Quake filled that void. I didn't need to play it, and then
yeah. I think like I think like the difference in playing it as a kid, like fighting my brother to play it and like getting in trouble for like messing his games up because I wanted to play and stuff like that, is like just a different kind of memory, because this was at a time when I was so young that this game actually did scare me. Like it was pretty scary, as a child playing this game. And it's always funny to think about the older horror games as scary when the graphics compared to now were so bad, right? But it was legitimately scary, and I wasn't very good at it because I was a small child and it was scary, and I just didn't knew it gaming, and the computer thing was kind of clunky back then, and it's still clunky. And but I remember going back and playing it, again as an adult, and it's a completely different experience. It's very, I think it's more fun, doing it later than it was then, because then I was scared and I was losing. It was like negative emotion after negative emotion. So
yeah, I know. There's that extra layer of fear in a video game if you're bad at it. where it's
I
like
agree. That's
and
true.
then you're more tense, and then you get worse, and it kind of feeds into itself. I had my ex used to make fun of me for this. I got really freaked out by Until Dawn QuickTime events because I'm so
Oh,
bad at QuickTime events.
yeah, I'm not good at it
And
either.
I was like constantly at the edge of my seat where it's like, oh God,
Please don't do it right now. I'm not ready.
please.
Yeah, those are hard. I think like I just saw the other day, speaking of like horror games, they've either made the decision to or they are contemplating removing QuickTime events from the Resident Evil 4 um
Oh,
um not remake. Well, yeah, I guess, but
the
the what's the other word? Not remake, but
remaster?
remastered. So I think like they talked about that, but it's kind of like a big part of the experience. So I don't know what it would feel like. As much as I hate them,
Yeah.
like, but the people that did Until Dawn, all of their games that I've played all have
Mhm,
quick time events because I played the cop one and the Man of Medan
mhm.
from the Dark Pictures anthology game series. But anyway, um Doom. Sorry.
Yeah, no, no.
We don't get to talk games. We said this
We
in the
don't.
last episode. We get to talk games. We're like blah, 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 games. Anyway, so all right, take us away with our synopsises of the video game and the movie.
All right. So for the video game first, in the future, an unnamed Marine known as Doom Marine or Doom Guy is posted to a dead end assignment on Mars after assaulting a superior officer who ordered his unit to fire on civilians. The Union Aerospace Corporation, which operates radioactive waste facilities there, allows the military to conduct secret teleportation experiments that go horribly wrong. A base on Phobos urgently requests military support, while Deimos disappears entirely, and the Marine joins a combat force to secure Phobos. He waits at the perimeter as ordered while the entire assault team is wiped out with no way off the moon and armed with only a pistol. He enters the base intent on revenge. Is the that is our game summary.
Summary.
Yeah, it's that one's longer. That was the only summary of the game that I found for the uh
Yeah,
all the other summaries were for the 2016
the
game,
newer
which is
one, I'm
not
sure.
what we're doing.
No. Okay.
Um, our movie summary, though. Space Marines are sent to investigate strange events at a research facility on Mars, but find themselves at the mercy of genetically enhanced killing machines.
Not
Much more
even close.
concise.
Yeah. That one, yeah. Yeah, so I saw I think so I rewatched this today to just kind of refresh because I hadn't seen it in a while. I think I actually own it, the movie.
Mhm.
I think I actually own the movie on DVD somewhere. But anyway, so this was a first watch for you though. You had not seen
Yeah,
this one.
I had not.
I kind of want to know like what you were thinking since you hadn't seen it before.
Uh, so I was going to watch this when it first came out. I was kind of excited for it just because I was younger and there was not that stigma around video game movies in my
Sure.
life yet.
Yeah.
So I was kind of excited to see a video game movie, even though
Yeah.
it wasn't a video game at that time that I had played yet. Uh,
Oh. Okay,
and
that makes
then
sense.
I saw the trailer and I just noped out. It was like, no, I don't need that. And then it became and then it became such a joke where it was like, everyone used the Doom film as like an example for being bad, and it
Yeah.
was like it started the trend of bad video game movies, and honestly, I expected it to be a lot worse than it was. It's
Yeah.
not good. I'm not gonna defend it real hard, but, like, I honestly especially after House of the Dead last month,
I
I
mean,
expected this to be a train wreck. And
yeah.
it and also kind of like House of the Dead, I almost think it would have been more entertaining if it was bad all the way through. Like, it had
Versus
its
like, yeah.
moments where you're kinda like, I almost I kinda like it. I think it actually quality-wise might have been a little bit better consistently than House of the Dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I didn't it's not good, I don't hate it. I'm not as mad as I thought I would be.
Well, that's good, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually like this one. I don't love it. I like it. I mean, you figure this it's got a big cast. Like it's got
Yeah.
Dwayne Johnson, it's got Carl Urban. I am totally spacing on the blonde's name. Our female doctor, the one that's Carl Urban's character's sister, whatever her
Yeah, I
name
should
is.
probably know what her name is.
Pike, something Pike, Rosalind Pike or Russell, something like that. I
Yeah.
think I'm close. But like the cast is got some big names in it.
Mhm.
And so, which was one of the reasons I decided to give it a chance back when I saw it for the first time. Because I like, first of all, I love Carl Urban. I just genuinely love him. And I mean, The Rock is funny. I can take or leave him, depends on the role. But that was the motivation to see it because I thought, oh, it's probably going to be kind of, I assumed going into it that it was going to be over the top and silly, and it is at times silly. I mean, the
It
even
is.
the entry to the film is a little like when he does the not the, I guess not the tech, like the beginning scene, but the scene after, when the Rod's character does the phone call or whatever, you're just like,
Yeah.
it's like that's kind of where the cheese starts, because like, but I think that like, I thought it was like a fun movie. I definitely did not question my life choices as much as I did watching House of the Dead. Because that one was like, oh well, at least we saved some good ones for later in the series. But I do think like, I think that this is a definitely a silly version of what Doom was, because Doom, for all intent and purposes, was not a silly game. It wasn't a silly story. It wasn't, and this was a little silly in a lot of ways, but it also, in just, the parts that I liked, it did have some cool parts that I thought were really like, ooh, kind of, and never scary, never like, I'm sure there's a couple of cheap jump moments that probably got me, but as far as like
Mhm.
atmosphere and things like that, like none of that was really a thing. And then there's one part in particular, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little closer to the end, that I did really love, that made my gaming heart very happy. But I know that a lot of people were not happy about that. But overall, I thought this was like a pretty fun adaptation. But I do think you have to go into it definitely not taking it too seriously.
Yeah.
And I think coming out of talking about House of the Dead, like you said, I think it definitely goes up, a little bit from there. So I
Yeah.
thought it was pretty fun. The cast did an okay job. The story definitely kind of goes in its own direction. It's kind of hard to tell after a while what it's even supposed to be
I
about compared to the game. But I thought it was fun overall.
yeah, I think it was fun, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of more forgiving of this one. My weakness, and I talk about this all the time. People always bring it up. It comes up in Friday the 13th a lot as a franchise. But my weakness is like campy sci-fi movies. I
Yeah.
have a
Okay.
soft spot for
Oh.
them.
Yeah.
It comes up with Jason X because I
Oh my God. Yeah.
it's such a bad Friday the 13th movie, but I love it so much.
Oh my God. Okay.
Uh, and this one, it hits that sweet spot where it's
I can
like,
see that.
if it were any more serious, I'd be kind of bored, but, like, they know what they're doing. They're having a good time doing it, like,
Yeah, I can see
it's
that now
kind of
that you say that,
endearing.
because that's what I grew up like. My sort of like entry into watching more horror and stuff was watching cheesy sci-fi stuff with my dad, because he really really into the sci-fi channel. So like that was always on the TV when I was growing up. And like I would get so into those over the top silly sci-fi movies, because back then that's all there was. Like there really just
Yeah,
wasn't anything serious. So maybe that's also part of why I liked this one, is because it kind of hit those points for me too, because I really liked cheesy sci-fi stuff too, especially when it's got horror elements to it.
yeah.
Like, because I'm really picky about like silly horror, like comedic
Mhm.
horror, and like I have like a really fine line with it. But if it's sci-fi cheesy horror, it's like a whole different thing on its own. So I
Yeah,
wonder if
that's
that's
just
part of it
great.
too.
And
Yeah.
I can understand, because it is weird looking back and seeing that this started such a train of bad movies, but it's like, I can understand why if you were super into Doom, you would see this movie and be mad at it. Like, I get it. I
I
get
can
the
see that too.
outrage, but it's hard for me personally to be mad at it. If this were Quake, if you
Oh,
took the
right.
same
That's like
movie and
yeah,
slapped Quake on it, I might be mad at it, honestly, but, like,
right.
it's just it's so much fun at some points. I There were some things I wish it had done better just
Yeah,
from, like, a film, because the plot is convoluted.
very.
Um, it's like it feels very much like it knows it's just building up to the action sequence
Yep,
at the end,
I
like,
agree.
that's what we're here for.
Yep.
So you have to wonder why they spent, like, an hour and a half just setting that up with everything else. Because it's like, you could have just been like, "We're teleporting to Mars, here's the facility, everyone have some guns, let's go." Like, and it would have
Yeah,
had the
no, I
same
agree.
effect.
Yeah. Well, and ironically, that is kind of something we talked about with House of the Dead too, was like adding too much to something that you really didn't need to add that much to, because
Yeah.
there's not that much. I mean, there's a story in both of those games, in Doom and
Mhm.
House of the Dead. But when they translated them into these movies, they tried to add a lot more than I think was necessary. And
Yeah.
you're adding like I remember watching it, and like when she's trying to explain the female specimen that they found, and she's like talking about it, you're just kind of like, what? Like, I don't what? Like, I'm like, what is that what we're here? Like, I'm confused. Like, there's like, and then you just kind of have like you get into a rhythm with the movie of the add-on information. You're just kind of like, okay, we're just like talking, we're just doing all kinds of things at this point just to get us to the end of the movie, exactly like you said. And it's like it really wasn't this could have been a strictly like no story action film, and it probably would have made people a little happier if you hadn't
Yeah.
added all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of video game movies try that, where it's like, instead of just expanding on the existing plot elements, they're
Yep.
like, "Oh, well, it's a shooter game, we're gonna add a plot to it." And it's like, "No, there's a plot." Like, just
It's just a simple one. It doesn't have to be this big giant story. Because that's exactly what happened. Was I was watching it and I was like not understanding like that. And of course now I've seen it multiple times. So I know that really none of that matters. But
yeah.
going into it as a first watch, remembering all these feelings I have about the game, I was just kind of like, where the fuck is this going? Like, I don't understand. So yeah, but I mean, and it's sad because like as silly as some of it is, I don't think that any of the acting was necessarily weak, or any of the
No.
effects were like the dumbest I've ever seen. Like some of those things were absolutely fine. Like I didn't have, and even watching it now, because this came out, when did this come out? 2005?
2005, I think?
Okay. I knew it was like
Yes.
before I graduated high school. So it was a while ago. But yeah, I mean, it still looks fine. Like I don't think there's a lot of there's definitely some things that didn't age well. Some of it's comments and conversation pieces, but a lot of it was fine as far as watching it. As a rewatch in 2023 versus a first time watch in 2005 or whenever it was that I saw it for the first time. Um, so that some of that stuff I thought was absolutely like no complaints.
And it's got the we keep talking about it, but it's got the special effects of, like, a cheesy sci-fi
It
movie,
does.
where it's like,
Yep.
it's good for what it is, it ages like a cheesy sci-fi movie, I'm not mad at it. I saw a couple horror movies last year, I think, that had sillier effects than this, you
That were
know?
newer, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not like groundbreaking special effects. You can tell that they're a little bit older and they're not, super high budget, but everything gets its point across without looking ridiculous in the context that it's in. And I think that kind of like visual continuity helps.
Yeah, well, and I think just to kind of add to that, in a lot of ways, some of that stuff did look very video gamey. Like it did look very like I don't know, like the what am I trying to say? Like the way it I don't know. Like the gore effects and stuff looked very much like something you would see in a video game, because I think people who are gamers, I think, will know what I mean when I say that, because like movie quality looks of things is very different than the way things look in a game. And so like,
Yeah.
but a lot of this I do feel like looked like video game stuff. Like I don't feel like it was all like like normal movie looking things. I don't know. I think you know what I'm trying to say.
I absolutely know what you're trying to say, and they kind of I think one of the smartest decisions that this movie made was that they leaned into it a little bit, because like,
Yeah.
when they pull the blood out, when they've got the syringe and they're taking, like, the first blood sample from one of the creatures, it's thick. Uh,
Yes.
and it, like, it's one of those things where it's like blood looks different here, it's gonna be a little bit pulpier, it's going to have and it
A
did
good
lend it
point.
that, like,
Yeah.
90s rendered blood feel where it was
Yeah,
coming
that's
out in,
a
like,
good point. I didn't even
globs.
think about that specifically. That's a good point though. No, you're right. I think all of that did. And even the cut, what would be like in a video game, what would be the cutaway scene. So like in that beginning sequence, for example, when we see the doctors running, that would be like an opening cutaway scene in a video game. Like some of that stuff was filmed very video gamey, which I think while adding to like its effects as an adaptation, it did also add to the cheese because you're just kind of
Yeah.
like, ugh, like, like there's just moments where you just go, yeah, of course. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I did have one issue with it, because I thought the blood they did very well,
yeah,
in keeping with the video game vibe. There
yep.
was one thing that bothered me on the other side of that spectrum,
Okay.
and it was the fact that they have kill cams on the guns. They introduced that very early, and
Early.
it's like, there's that cinematography brain where it's like, this is going to get a first person effect later on in the movie.
Yep.
But the angle that they show for the first person sequence, and it's one of my favorite sequences, but
It's
it
my favorite.
drove me crazy that it was not the same angle that we had gotten in the kill cam from the gun, because it's like, why did we introduce
If
that
it wasn't
mechanic
gonna be,
if
oh
we're
yeah,
not
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
use it? Like, I
yeah,
just little s and it's like the House of the Dead thing where it feels so dumb to kind of nitpick on, like, these cinematography choices, but, like, just a little more attention to detail would have really made this sing as a movie, and
yeah.
they missed a little bit, and also with the first person sequence, there are again, favorite sequence, because it gives you that nostalgia.
Oh,
It's so
yeah.
strong. The music, the effects, the angles. I really liked it. There were, I think, 2 that I spotted cutaways that are just randomly back in third person, and I hate it because it's like,
Yes.
"No." You're
Yeah.
so close, because I think adding a scene, and they're all scenes where he's getting knocked around, which is something that we didn't really experience playing Doom, but it's
Yeah.
like adding that extra realistic element where he's taking some hits and falling over and stuff. Keeping that in first person would have really just added something, and they didn't do it. They couldn't commit. And oh man.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And I agree. It's like it sounds nitpicky, but I think you're right. I think it's those little things like that, those types of details though that elevate the experience as a viewer, especially in that
Yeah.
sequence that you're talking about, because that's my favorite sequence too. And I remember the first time I saw this movie when when
Yeah.
it switches to that, I was like, "Oh, like I'm like we are doing like this is it." Like I was so pumped. And it's still my favorite. Like that's my favorite part of the whole thing. And it's like this was like I went through all of this with this movie just to get to this like one section. And it doesn't even
Yeah.
last that long. It's not even like it's like a minute or two, maybe something. It's a very short sequence, but it is one of the strongest ones. And I agree with you. I think the tossing around and the falling down and stuff, I think all of that, had it been left in that perspective, I think really would have added to it. Because it's
Yeah.
like it's like we talk about, like when you're playing video games, especially stuff that's in first person, it's like
Mhm.
that's you, like when you're
Yeah.
playing the game. So when you're watching that on screen as a film like this for a video game adaptation, I think that that's going to be more effective, seeing that
Yeah.
all of the jerking around and the falling. Like, I think I totally agree with you. I think that would have been enough to definitely elevate that whole part of that just a
Yeah.
little bit more.
Yeah, and there are just, like, little moments like that that I wish they could have done, but it's hard to complain because it was the sequence that we were there for, and man, when he goes through that first door, it's like, "Yes. Yes."
Oh
Uh
god, and the animation or whatever you wanna call it, like, the way everything moves after that, like, was so good. That part was
Yeah.
that's, like, where all their effort went, was, like, that one section of because the rest of it is just kinda so, like, hokey and kinda just like, "Okay, here's this thing." But that part you can tell, like, there was some effort, some, like, love put into that section to make it feel like we were playing Doom, you know? Like, I really
Yeah.
appreciated that section a lot.
It's like the storming the house scene from House of the Dead, like, I think
Yeah.
maybe they started there and worked backwards, like, to fill runtime.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's definitely, like, the strongest and I think, like, for me, I think the weakest point of the whole film is the ending. Like, I did the ending for
Oh
me
god.
was, like, once we get the, once, The Rock's character starts to I was like, "Okay, like, y'all are really losing me here. Y'all should have left it with him in that other like, in first person, like, doing something totally different than this. This has got me, like, completely out of this." Like, and that to me, like, because again, it's got some cheesy things, it's got some really off the rail stuff that like doesn't tie into the storyline, we don't know where it came from, but like the ending was the part that was definitely what would, if I were to rank it, the ending is what would bring it like way down for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think I on paper, I kind of like what they did with The Rock's character,
Yeah.
where it's like, we get to see the de-evolution of someone that has had the opposite effect of the, drugs, and it's
Yep.
like, I that's fine on paper, but everything about the execution
Yeah.
was so bad.
Yeah.
Um, the
Yeah.
whole, like, because there are just a lot of lines in there that don't make sense. It's like where he's like, "I have 1 round left," and you think it's gonna be, like, a big deal, and you see that one shot, but it
Oh,
misses, and it's like, "So what was the payoff here?" Like, I don't and also, like, it was such a low stakes situation because even if it had torn right through him, he instantly regenerates. Like, let him take a shot. It doesn't,
it'll
like,
be fine.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
fine. And then
Yeah.
I think my specifically worst part of the movie was the hand-to-hand combat because who's playing Doom and is like, "You know what I wanna do is punch a guy." It's like,
Yeah, that's true.
"No."
Yeah.
It looked worse than the rest of the movie, the effects were bad, they're just, like, throwing each other into walls and onto railings and stuff. I was like,
Oh,
What am I
yeah.
watching right now?"
Yeah. It was that part, yeah, that part was weird too. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's like it's funny because like it really I felt really good about it until like the last like I don't know what like 10, 15 minutes, not maybe that
Yeah,
many. But the last little bit of it just like completely lost me at the like and there were parts, when like when they finally get to this point in the story where they realize like what's happening to the other
mhm.
people, I was like, okay, like okay, sure. Like they're starting to try to tie in the stuff. I don't know. The ending just completely messed with me. I was just like, and I didn't really remember the ending because it's been a minute since I've watched it, which was one of the reasons I wanted to rewatch before we talked about it. And so, and I remember I was amped up again, for the first person thing. But when we get to those last like couple sequences, I was just like, oh fuck, I totally forgot about all of this stuff. Like, I was just remembering the good, and I'd totally forgotten about some of that stuff that happens. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, the one thing I did like maybe the only thing I liked about the end is, and this, again, it's kind of a dumb thing, but I really like that it's the brother and sister that survive. I guess I'm just so used to, like, early 2000s movies where it's, like, a girl and the love interest, and it's like,
Yes, this is a
I
different
I like that
dynamic.
the family makes it out, like, uh, he
Yes.
has I wish I didn't take notes today, because I was trapped under cats as always. Um, I wish I had written it down though. the last line of the movie just it was so dumb, and it was like, "There's no way I'm gonna remember this," but he ends on, like, a cheesy one-liner that doesn't make any sense, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And then the
Oh,
credits just start rolling, and I'm like, "What?"
yeah, I don't remember what it is either. I just
I
watched it today.
yeah, I watched it this morning, and it's
I don't remember what it is either.
which I think speaks to the line because it's just
It's
like,
not
it didn't
memorable,
make any
right?
sense.
Yeah, I think like yeah, I liked that too. I always like when the dynamic is something outside of a love interest because
Yeah,
that's a common go-to and it's fine. It works. I get it. Everyone's interested in being in love. Like I get all it fine. But like it is really always really cool to me. And you know what else I really like? Side small note about this conversation is like I also really like when it's two female friends because so many times we get females that hate each other for no fucking reason.
no
And they hate
reason.
each other, and then one of them dies, and we're left with like no resolution. Like, why did they hate each other? Because they're girls? Is that's the message here? Like, so I love when stuff does that too, where it'll take like a like a female friendship
Mhm.
and make it like strong and like I really like when they do that too. But siblings work too. I get tired of seeing the love
Yeah.
interest stuff. So that's yeah, that I did really like that part too. And they actually did have pretty what I felt was pretty realistic chemistry. We start out they're kind of estranged, and then of course, like most arcs, they go through this horrible thing, and then they come out stronger or whatever because of it. They rehash all their whatevers, right? So
Yeah.
I think all of that was good. That was probably the only redeeming quality of the ending. I would agree with that too.
Yeah, that made me really and, it's one of those things, it was not a super I there was not a lot of nuance in the film, like, there weren't a ton of surprises. I will say, I think I was most shocked when she says that she's his sister because it's like, there's one woman in the whole facility, this is the main guy, they're gonna be the last 2, but it was like, "Oh,
They're related.
they're related, like, this isn't gonna be a thing."
Yeah, because they almost left it open at first for you to assume love interest. Like they
Yeah,
had a weird interaction at the very beginning before it is announced that they're siblings, and you're just kind of like, yeah, okay, like ex husband or something, something, typical, right? So I do like that element. That element was pretty good as far as the story goes, and then it also adds a different level of caring to like him, become turn or turn into whatever, like all of that part, just the emotions behind her worrying, and everything was just so different because they were siblings. So that was definitely
yeah.
good. I did like that.
I liked it. And we got some good insight into the parents also. I think a lot of
Yeah.
his character development was done through her conversations where she's like lecturing him about their parents. And it's
Yeah.
like, he felt more like a real character because he had a sister there and I liked it. It's
Yeah.
good.
And it was a different, and it was like a not necessarily like a typical like info dump of information. It felt a little more organic. It
It
wasn't just like,
did.
here, let me spoon feed you these story elements really fast. It was like they were spoon feeding it, but in a way that made sense to everything else that was kind of going on around them. So
Yeah.
it ended up working.
I think it worked.
Yeah.
And like that is kind of that's I expect all of these things from movies here in 2023, but, like, when I'm going back and watching older stuff, I my standard's just not quite as high. I was like I was really impressed by all of this, like, really basic storytelling
That's fair.
that's
Yeah, because there's
happening.
and
Like
not even just from the slew of video game adaptations, but horror
no.
in general from that time frame is
We had a rough
it's
patch.
just
Yeah.
it's rough, and in like and it just is one of those things like you did come to expect those like dime a dozen stories where like nothing, it was just like there's no depth, there's no character development, there's no point. It's just whatever someone's getting a bunch of people get murdered, that was like the point, or a bunch of people were being haunted or whatever, that was the point. Like that was it. There was no, yeah, so to your point, yeah, it was not really heard of for the stuff from that time frame to be like have depth and like that. That's true.
Yeah. And I was not expecting Doom to be the exception to that, like I I feel bad. I've been throwing shade at this movie for just, like, for years, and it's not nearly as bad as I was expecting.
No, no. I don't know. I don't remember because it's been so long since I saw it as a first watch. I don't remember what my expectations were, but I do typically in general, I go into things very open-minded most of the time. There's a couple of exceptions to that. Some of which will come up later in our series. But I do think this was likely one that I went in open-minded, and I find like it's so hard to do that sometimes, and it's a
Right.
risk when when filmmakers decide to make things that are attached to people's childhood and their memories and these big moments for them. It's like for me, like I said, it was like one of the first video games I ever played ever, and
Aw.
so going into it, it was just as likely that I was going to like hate it. And but
Yeah.
I generally try to go into things with a really open mind, and I think I think it helps sometimes, but this was one I was able to do that, whereas I'm not always able to. So I think it helped.
Yeah, I think that definitely helped me. This one I
Yeah.
actually had to its benefit. I had even lowered expectations, but I do try, and
Yeah.
it's so hard sometimes. I can't tell you how many times, even just like in the last couple weeks, I've been like, I'm not going to compare this to anything. I'm gonna treat it as its own
Oh,
thing.
I know.
And then immediately it's like, that's not how this should be.
I know. It's hard, and that's what I'm saying. It's definitely not always an easy thing to do. Now, I will say this. I think if I had played Doom for the first time as an adult and then saw this movie, I don't think I would have been as open-minded. But I didn't go back into this as an adult until after I'd already seen the movie. So I'm going off of
Yeah.
younger me memories, which I think also probably played a lot. Like I'll tell you this right now. This is one that ain't even out yet. They just started filming like this week or last week. But let me tell you one that I will not be going open minded in, and that's FNAF. When that Five Nights at Freddy's movie finally comes out, it better be fucking good, or I'm going to be livid. Like,
Could when FNAF comes around,
yeah.
um, I don't know how to ask this. I would
Okay.
like to do maybe a special episode, leading up to FNAF
Okay.
or following it directly.
Okay.
I think the perfect FNAF movie is Willy's Wonderland.
Willy's
I think it already
Wonderland.
exists, and I would love to talk about it. We could
Yes.
talk about it after, 'cause at that point, I might have a base reference for, like, what they're able to achieve, but it's just I can't imagine a more perfect FNAF movie.
I
Uh
said so yeah, no, I said so I when I saw Willy's Wonderland for the first time 2 years ago or whenever it was that it came out, I
Yeah.
said, "This is the FNAF movie that I've been waiting on," because Blumhouse has had the rights to do the FNAF movie for 5
So
fucking years,
long.
and they haven't done a single thing, and I was like, "Oh, we're never gonna get it, never gonna get it, never gonna get it, never gonna get it," and so Willy's Wonderland came out, and I was like, "Oh, this is the one," like, and it's so fucking good. I just
It's so
rewatched it the
good.
other night. It's so fucking good. And
I
so,
love it
like,
so much.
I have the shirt. I
Me
love like
too.
I like so see when we if we do an episode on it, we'll have to wear our shirts. And
We
so
will.
I'm like, I love it so much. And then when they finally announced that they were filming it, here's what is like my biggest complaint with the horror world right now.
Mhm.
Can we please stop making trilogies before we've put out the first fucking movie? They are doing 3 movies, and the first one isn't even a week into filming yet. Come on.
No. It's not we're picking things up. I It drives me crazy. We need to be allowed to have standalone movies. We need to let
Just
series,
yeah.
like, expand naturally at their own pace.
Yes.
Oh, man.
And then, like, and so for example, when they did the trilogy, the new trilogy reboot, whatever the hell it's supposed to be of The Strangers, they filmed them all at the same time. They wrapped
Yeah.
production at the same time. Do you know what that means? That means that all 3 of those movies were rushed. That's what that
Yeah.
tells me because you couldn't just take the time to do one. They're doing the same thing with The Exorcist. There's another one that they just said they're going to do a trilogy instead of just one. But FNAF was the newest one. And don't get me wrong, am I super, super stoked that Stu Macher from Scream is going to be in FNAF? 1,000%. Did I get goosebumps and want to scream out loud when I saw that Jim Henson is doing the fucking animatronics? Yes. Do we need to talk about there being 3 movies right now? No.
No. And that was the so Jim Henson thing was what finally got me on board because
Oh, right.
I
Yes.
was so tired of waiting for FNAF. There was that whole thing with Scott Cawthon, there was drama
Yep,
there was drama going on with Blumhouse at the time,
yep,
and when they announced the movie, I was just like, "I don't give a fuck, I'm not gonna watch it, I'm
same.
gonna stay home and watch Nick Cage," and then they were like, "Jim Henson," and I was like, "Oh," and then they're
I'm
like,
not
"Schumacher," and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll go."
Yeah. It's got Matthew Lillard and Josh Hutcherson, which is the guy from, Hunger Games. He plays PETA in Hunger Games, and so he's gonna be in it too.
Oh, yeah.
He's, he was in what was the horror movie he was in? He's in a horror movie too, but that's what I know him from. I'm pretty sure that's right.
I
So
think
the
that's
2
right
of them
too.
are gonna be our main characters, and then
Mhm.
with Henson Productions doing the animatronics, I'm like, "Oh, okay, y'all got me." Like, y'all got me,
Excited.
but I was the same way. I was like, "I got Willie's. I don't need you, Bloomhouse. I don't need you. Blumhouse, whatever. I don't need you." But I was like, but then like I was the exact same way when I saw the announcement on Bloody Disgusting. I was like, "Oh, I hate y'all so much." And then I saw that Matthew Lillard had said he had signed a 3-movie deal, and I was like, "Come on."
We don't need that.
We don't. Just do 1 movie. And you know what? If it eventually turns into a trilogy, fine. Fine. But can we just I just want the love and attention that the first one deserves to go into it, because if you rush and you try to make it fit into 3 other stories, I'm sorry, but the first one's going to be watered down, almost guaranteed. Like there's no
Yeah,
way. So I am like, we will absolutely cover that
I'm
pending it
excited.
actually comes out.
Yeah,
And I'm so on board with doing Willy's Wonderland, covering that one, because that is
totally.
100% a FNAF movie. It's
Yeah,
just
it's
doesn't
like
have the name.
I know technically it's not, but it should count in spirit.
I mean, it definitely counts for me in spirit. I literally just rewatched this. Like, I love it. It's one of my favorite, favorite movies. It's such a
Me
fun, like, oh
too.
my God.
It's
So
just so
good. So
good.
good. But yeah, so it's like I'm on board. And then we've also got what's the other video game? Obviously The Last of Us, FNAF, and the other one they announced recently was they're gonna do another Silent Hill.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they're
Yes.
gonna do another Silent Hill. I think if I remember correctly, they're going to ignore Revelations, rightfully so, and they're
Good.
going to start. It's going to be connected to the one that came out in 2006. No, yes, 2006, something like that. When did the first one come out? 2000 and was it way before 2006? 2003? I'm about to look it up.
I
I
don't
should
know.
know this.
I played them all, like I marathoned them all after they were out, so I have
Oh
no idea what the
no, the
years
movie.
are.
I'm talking about the first
Oh, the
movie,
movie.
2000
I think
and
that was
6.
fi
Damn, I
oh,
shouldn't even second guess myself. I love Silent Hill. Silent Hill is my shit. 2006. So anyway, so I think if I remember what I'm reading correctly, they are not redoing from scratch. I think
okay.
this one is going to take place after the 2006 one. That was a long time ago, so I don't know what that looks like, but I guess we'll see.
I'm excited. Are they getting Sean Bean back?
No. Well,
That'd be my
they
dream.
did the Heather story for is it Revelations? I think that's right. The
I think it might
3D
be.
one, the whatever the name of the 3D one. But the problem is, well, first of all, the story got a little they combined a little too many story elements for me. We are going to talk about that much later in the series. But my only other thought on it was they made it for 3D, which made it crap. Like
Yeah,
it just made it crap. Like all of the graphics and everything get lost in translation because I didn't watch it in 3D.
right.
And
You're
so it
watching
just
at home and it
it just
just
looks
looks
like a cart.
bad.
It just looks goofy. So I'm really excited about the Silent Hill. Really excited about the FNAF. I'm like, yeah. So we're gonna have more stuff to talk. I don't know when the freaking FNAF movie's gonna come out. Hopefully, maybe probably not this year. It'll probably be like next year, the year after. If they do
Probably.
it right, if they take their time and they do it right.
Which Blumhouse, they're such a wild card with that kind of
They
thing.
are. I always feel the same way when they announce movies. I'm like, well, 50-50. Like that's true.
And then, cause like, the whole Exorcist thing, I was like, I really don't want them doing more Exorcist stuff, and everyone was like, "Well, you liked Halloween," and I was like, yeah, I liked Halloween," and they're like, "You liked David Gordon Green," and it's like, "Did I?" 'Cause I liked Halloween 2018, but I don't know how I feel about Kills or Ends, and now they're
Yeah,
already promising me 3 more for The Exorcist, and it's like,
I know.
I don't know.
And The Exorcist is gonna be a continuation.
Yeah.
And that's the part where I'm like, there's so much room for error with this. Like, The Exorcist was one, like, talking about being open-minded about remakes and stuff like that and adaptations and the whole 9. I that was one I really thought was, like, like, on the list. Like, don't mess with, and I know a lot of people nowadays, this was not always the case, but now there's, like, this bandwagon for, like, The Exorcist 3 is the best. That used to not no one said that 5 years
Mm.
ago, but everyone says that now. But either way, I just feel like The Exorcist is, like, on a pedestal, and maybe we don't fuck with it. Like,
Maybe we just don't have
yeah,
to.
like, there's enough other things that you could do, like, I don't know, but I am excited about FNAF.
It's gonna be
I
good.
just
It's gonna
yeah,
be fun.
I think
Let
at
me
the very
rephrase.
least it'll be fun. Yeah. We'll see when they release pictures, and we'll see, like, kinda how it plays out. I'm just mad it took them this freaking long because they announced it. They had my ass, like, amped. I was, like, so ready, and crickets for 5 years, and I'm like, "These motherfuckers." I'm so mad.
I was so baffled because it was like, I and I still kind of am. What a business decision! Because it's like FNAF as a game, it's still doing stuff, but it's past its prime at this point,
Yeah,
like,
it had
as
its, like,
a
peak where
Yeah,
everybody was talking about it, and it's not that it doesn't hold up, it's just not
no.
as relevant as it was because now there's spinoffs. There's,
Yeah,
like, there's the sister locations. I mean, not sister location. That's one of the what's the other? Poppy's Playtime.
yeah.
There's a couple
Oh
of others
god.
that are
Yeah, there are a bunch, I
like
feel like,
that.
that are
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm like you. The Henson thing had me like, all right, you bastards. Like, I'm in. Like, I'm probably gonna pay to go see this when it comes out. Now.
Me too. They've probably got me there. I I'd like to pretend like we'll see, but no, I'm gonna be there.
And what I want to see in a trailer
Mhm.
is I just want to see the desk
Yeah,
for a phone call
with the phone call.
with the phone
Yeah.
call, and then the first, like, glimpse of, like, some eyes in the dark or something. I don't want to see anything. I don't want to know anything. That's all I want is that opening scene with the desk, the phone call, and some eyeballs. That's all I need to see, and
Yeah.
that'll get me. If they show too much, I may have to go into this one blind. I may have
I
to
was
just,
gonna say
like,
I'm probably not gonna watch
not
any
even gonna
trailers
watch it
because I
because they
don't trust
ruined so
them.
many things. Yeah.
Ah,
Anyway, so that's our thoughts on Doom and everything.
yeah, Doom.
They
It's it's
announced the
hard
FNAF
getting video
thing.
game news, like,
That's what I
when
was
we're
gonna
coming on
say.
to talk about a video game podcast, because it's like, man,
I know. Well,
I
and the
wanna talk
other
about
thing
it.
is they just announced the first day of filming on FNAF last week, I think.
Yeah,
Because Jason, Bloom or
posted
whatever
the
posted the image of the thing. And so, under the name Bad Cupcake,
mhm.
which is cute. Annoyingly so, but it's cute. But yeah, so I mean, so it's not only horror game news, but it also, like, just happened. And I
It's
hadn't really
so
had a
relevant.
chance to excitedly talk about it yet. So I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't even mean to bring it up. It kind of happened on
I
accident.
Yeah, but it's exciting.
It is. Because we have such shitty ones. Like, we
Yeah.
are some of these game adaptations that we're going to talk. Some of them are good. A couple of them are
Yeah.
good, but a few of them are not good. And I think that, like, it's like comforting as a gamer to see something that we enjoy, that we love, get turned into something even cooler. Like,
Yeah.
and so it's nice to think that they're going to do it some justice. But I'm definitely game to promote with Willy's Wonderland because that's a fantastic film.
It's so good.
It's so good. It really is. But and I like Doom, but I don't think it's not making any top adaptation list for me, probably.
Yeah, probably. There was a time I think if I had watched Doom,
Mhm.
like not when it came out maybe, but like like a handful of years ago, it might have made like a top adaptations list just by default.
Because there weren't that many.
'Cause there weren't that many, and the ones that we got, Silent Hill was my favorite for a long time. It's like Silent Hill is the peak of video game movies, it's never gonna be outdone because
Mhm.
we keep getting, like, these nonsense films, and it's
That's so
like,
true. Yeah.
so it might not have been my top, but it would have been up there, and then we started getting some more stuff, like, even just within the last few years, it's gotten much more competitive very quickly,
Yeah, because
which
they now see that there's a market for it. They now
yeah,
understand that like, oh shit, because when you do video game adaptations, you're not only opening up the doors for people who played the games, you're opening up the doors for people in the genre in general, whether they game or not, because they're already into that genre. So they're going to,
yeah,
people who, I mean, most people know the big ones, Silent Hill, Resident Evil. A lot of people who have never played FNAF will know what it is, but
mhm,
you're going to get in crowds that are just fans of horror
yeah.
specifically. And so when you do the video games, you're opening it up to two different sides of that whole thing. And I think they were like, "Oh, like people will pay to see this. We should do more of them," like
And it's like it's kind of an important generational thing also.
yeah,
Like I'm finding with The Last of Us, at the risk of sidetracking us again.
no
But
worries.
like my my dad is like I he really likes deep storytelling, but
Mhm.
he's not a gamer. And
Sure.
when The Last of Us came out, it was like, man, I would give anything for my dad to sit down and play this, and he's never gonna do it. Like, it's not
Yeah.
ever gonna happen. And I tried, and he doesn't like the shooting, and he like it didn't happen. And
Yeah.
he's been so happy watching it, and
It's
it's
so
like,
yeah. I
yes.
think I think this is like this is a very overly confident thing to say, but I think this is probably going to be my favorite adaptation that's ever been done. I mean,
It
they
would
would
have to fuck
really
up really
yeah, they'd
bad.
have to really tank it
Yeah.
for it to not be but yeah, it's been such a great experience so far. And I hope they do more. I mean, I know like I didn't like Revelations for Silent Hill, but I'm excited they're doing another movie.
Mhm.
I loved I know a lot of people didn't like this one, but I don't fucking care. I really liked Welcome to Raccoon City. I know a lot of people nitpicked the fuck out of it and hated it, but I loved it. I was like, let's do Resident Evil over. Let's just start the fuck over. Like I was there for it. I went and saw it in theaters. I was like wiggling in my seat because I was so pumped. Like I don't even care. But like so I'm here for the like give me more of it, like there's so many things especially with horror games specifically
Yeah.
that would make great movies that would be really good. So I'm like just do it, just keep making them, I'll keep watching them. I may not pay to
I
go
will
see them
keep
in
watching
theaters, we'll see how it goes, but I'll watch them either way.
I would sit in the theater for, like, 10 hours or whatever to watch The Last of Us if they wanna
Yeah.
I know it's
Oh
not a
my
movie, but
god.
I would watch the hell out of that.
Yeah, me too. No, me too, I definitely
Uh,
would. So
and,
I
like,
wouldn't.
Fathom Events used to do
Yeah.
stuff like that with, like, famous shows where they would screen just, like, a handful of
Oh, I didn't know they did
episodes,
the shows. I've seen a couple of
and
their movie events.
they did it with, like, some of the dumbest shows ever. They did it with, like, a few anime. They did it with Friends. I went to see, like, 3 episodes of Friends in a theater, and I was like, "This is going to catch on with better shows one day," and it just never did. I was like, "Alright.
Or
I
not.
guess I guess I'll just watch, like, the Thanksgiving episode of Friends and be done for life." But,
Oh
like
my god.
but, like, The Last of Us, that would be so good.
Yeah, I think Fathom did or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just theaters in general, but I went and saw Jaws in IMAX last year.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, that was Fathom.
was it Fathom? So
It
that
was.
was in September because that was around my birthday, and that was an experience. Like there like, and we're actually going to see Titanic this weekend on IMAX.
Oh, that's oh, cool. I didn't know they were doing Titanic.
Yeah, I think it's just this weekend. It might be, unless I'm wrong and they're extending it through Valentine's Day, because I think that's the reason.
Of course.
Whatever. I'm going to say I love Titanic. Spoiler alert, that's one of Angel's favorite movies ever. I saw that movie like 3 times in theater. I love that movie. And so I'm like, we're going to see this. We're going on Saturday to see it on IMAX, but nothing will ever top Jaws. Jaws, there's no way. Jaws is number one on IMAX. Like, but yeah, yeah, they should I would definitely watch The Last of Us on the big screen. That would be
That would be amazing.
especially when we start getting into because it looks like the next episode is gonna be really a little more actiony.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's gonna be it's actually balanced really well, which I know we'll talk about when we actually talk about that, but it's being really balanced between the storytelling and the fighting and it's, like, really well balanced so far, but that would be really cool to see on the big screen. I totally agree.
That'd be great. And there have not been like Doom came out in theaters, right?
Yep.
I'm not imagining this.
No. I saw Silent Hill in theaters too, the
I was
first
gonna
one.
say in Silent Hill, I feel like a lot of them. I feel like a lot of my favorites have not come out to theaters, which
Oh,
is
yeah, I
frustrating.
guess I
Of
guess it
course,
is only
and a
certain
couple of
ones.
those have been shows. Um, but even like maybe it's an American thing also, because I guess I tend to prefer some of the foreign adaptation. But still, it's like it is
Yeah,
frustrating because it's like, video game movies get such a bad rap, and then we get good content, and it's like, you can't have this in a
I
theater.
know what you
It's
mean.
not getting a
Yeah,
big release, like
yeah. It's not as like main, yeah, because yeah, I think the only ones that came to theater were ones that everybody knew, even if they didn't play them.
yeah.
Um, which is honestly the same thing that's happening with Five Nights at Freddy's. I mean, a lot of people play that. I'm not arguing that, but I think that a lot of people just know what it is. It's not necessarily like something it's every person ever has played, but everyone will know what it is when it comes out.
Yeah.
So they pick the like more mainstream stuff. But yeah, yeah.
Do we know also oh god, I'm helpless. I'm gonna keep talking about FNAF, I guess. Do we know what it's rated?
Do we know what?
What it's rated?
No,
Like, cause that's something cause it almost has to be PG-13, but
I hope not.
I just feel like a lot of the kids that played that have aged up into adults and would maybe like to see a gorier horror movie,
Well,
potentially.
yeah, because honestly, as good as Willy's Wonderland was,
Yeah,
it could have gone
it could have
harder, and I
been.
would have liked it still.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they've talked about it yet, or at least nothing official. I would I'm gonna be honest, if it goes down to a PG-13, I'm gonna go back to being skeptical because I just feel like there's too much, but I like gore. I'm not ashamed of that anymore. I was once upon a time, but I'm not anymore. Like, I love gore. If it's gonna
Yeah.
if they're gonna do this, like, I want animatronics eating people. I wanna see, like,
Yeah.
body parts flying everywhere. I want gruesome. Like, make me scared of these like I have been my entire life. Like,
Yeah.
remind me of why these are so scary, but I don't know. I mean, you might be right though. They might try to keep it in that window to get that younger audience. I really hope not though, because
I hope not also. But I mean, so that was the thing with Megan also, because that just came out. It was rated R and then it went viral on TikTok because of that dumb dance in the
dance,
trailer.
and it went
And then
down
they
to
were like, let's get it down to a
because
PG-13.
we
So
can
they
get
cut
more
out.
people to come in and see it. Yep.
Yeah.
That's what happens with a lot of PG-13 horror, which I do think is something that gets a bad rap. There's a lot of PG-13 horror that I really, really love.
Yeah.
But what it's hard to argue is that a lot of times horror movies get PG-13 because they want to make more money on them because they'll get in the younger crowds, which is
Yeah.
not what I want to deal with when I go see a horror movie in theaters. I do not typically see PG-13 horror in theaters because I don't want to deal with the children. Like, I just don't. I'm in my 30s. I hate everyone under the age of 30. Like, if you're under 30, you're a child, and I don't want you in my horror movies.
I watched oh god, yeah, kids in theaters are the worst. There was one at Knock at the Cabin when
Not
I
at the
went to
cabin.
see it, and I was like, "Just quit taking your kids to this. Like, get them out of here.
Oh
I don't
my
want to deal
god.
with
I
them."
went I went
Like,
and saw Beast with Idris Elba.
oh
Lion
yeah,
movie, okay?
okay,
It's rated R because it's a lion, I mean, tearing people to shreds. We
Yeah.
like at the end of the movie, the lights come up, we're gathering our stuff, getting ready to leave, and look behind us, and there are 3 children under the age of 5.
Oh my god.
Under the age of 5. Like, they just watched all of that. You're not sleeping in your bed alone for at least a month. No fucking way. That like, stop doing that. If I can't get somebody to watch my kid, I don't go. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not taking my toddler to watch a lion eat people. Like, Jesus Christ. If you're watching this, I'm sorry if you're offended, but it's the truth. Like,
Yeah.
when they need therapy, it'll be more expensive than that movie ticket or that babysitter could have been. Like, anyway.
Uh, yeah,
um,
but
yeah.
uh, so yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised with Doom.
Yeah. I think it's a fun movie. Like I said, it's
I
not
think
making
it's
any
fun.
top lists, but it's a fun, mindless movie. Like if you want to watch something that's kind of creature featurey, sci-fi, but you don't really want to think a lot, this is a good one.
Yeah. And it really is kind of because even though the plot is convoluted, they kind of tell you what's going on at all times. So you can kind of turn your brain off and it'll be like,
Yeah,
"Here's what
that's
this
true.
means." And
No,
you'll be
that's
like,
true.
"Okay, sure."
My cat is like, go back to sleep. He's like bathing. And so now he's like, his paw shoots up over here. Sorry. Anyways. Yeah, well, before we wrapped up, I did want to wrap up. I do want to do a plug. And I don't talk about this that much on the channel, and I need to do better about that part specifically. But if you like Kat and I,
Yeah,
which I know you do, um, we have stories in an anthology
we do.
called Livestock Horror Stories from the Unheard. It's a charity anthology that myself and Tasha Reynolds put together. And it is 17 stories from 17 different women about body autonomy and women's rights. It is, again, charity anthology. All of the funds that Ingram Sparks doesn't eat up, all the profit goes straight to the Center for Reproductive Rights. So I'm going to plug that. I'm going to put the link to get this below. You can get it from Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Those are the 2 big ones. It's an ebook and paper. So, but great cause, fantastic writers and stories. So definitely check out our anthology Livestock. Yeah, this was like my favorite part of 2022. I loved it. So
Mine too.
so make sure that you at least go check it out. I think we've almost sold enough copies for me to pull the first donation. I'm not 100%
Oh yeah.
sure because I just got a summary on it the other day. But keeping in mind, I've never published anything like this. I've never done this is my first one. And our first 2 weeks that the book was live, we sold 35 copies.
That is amazing.
And that's not ones that I purchased. I know some of you guys did get one, but it wasn't like everybody just bought a bunch and
Yeah.
that was, so those are legitimate numbers. Like, I mean, and 30, I'm so scared my cat's going to unplug my internet cord. Must you? And so, but yeah, we sold like, it was like 30, 34 or 35 in the first couple weeks that it was live. And I was like, wow, I felt really good about that.
Yeah, I was so excited to see that they were moving, and some of the reviews have been amazing also. I
Yeah.
creep on those sometimes.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I've been yeah, and and the people that are getting it and sharing it on their stories, if you guys are watching this, that means so much to all of us because this
it does.
project was important to all of us and we really all had a lot that we really wanted to say. And so being able to do it and then also getting the support back is like super meaningful. So
Yeah.
thanks for everybody that, shared it, has been posting pictures of getting it. All of that stuff. Because I even had a friend today share like my episode that came out or something, or she shared something that I just did, maybe Monday's episode. And but she put in the post about the book too. Like she separately wrote, hey, I just got this too, that they put together, that Voices from the Mausoleum put together, blah, blah, blah. Like, but it was like, still giving it a shout out even after she had posted. So the response has been
Yeah.
amazing. I have not received a single mean thing yet. I know it's coming, but it hasn't yet.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know.
'Cause it's, there's nothing in there that should be divisive, but,
No. But
uh,
yeah, it is,
it
yeah.
the world that
Yeah.
we live in,
Yeah, and I always say this too because people are like, "Oh, it's political." Human rights are not political. Our
no.
rights to control our bodies is not political. And if you feel that way, I'm sorry, that's incorrect. Like this is not a political discussion that there's pros and cons. It's like this is none of your business. Like
Yeah.
so I know that eventually we'll get a negative review. Eventually we'll get negative comments and my response to the negative reviews are going to be like, "And that money's still going to Center for Reproductive Rights." So do
Where it
say what
should
you
be
want.
going.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, well, that's all I
Yeah.
got on Doom and FNAF and Last of Us and Titanic in theaters, whatever else we talked about.
Yeah. Got a little
So,
off topic there at the end, but it was our treat for being so focused at the beginning.
we did good because when I went back to look at the other episode, it took us a minute to get
Yeah.
started. So- and like we both said already, and we will probably say every episode, we don't get to talk games much, so it's hard not to get a little derailed. Um, and then next month, Zeus
Last of Us.
willing, we'll be covering The Last of Us unless HBO gives us the finger and changes something, but we should be covering that in March.
Yes.
So very excited
I
about
hope.
that one. Yeah, fingers crossed. So cool. Well, Kat's links are going to be in the description for this episode as well. So if you're not following her or checking out Slasher, this was it, I always say it wrong. Slasher
Radio,
Radio.
slasher radio.
Slasher Radio. I want to say podcast. It is a podcast, but it's called
Yes.
Slasher Radio. So I'll put all the links for that in the episode so you can follow her and go listen to that as well. Talk horror movies and stuff like that. So yeah, that's it for this episode of Game Adaptations. We will be back next month talking The Last of Us. If you did not watch our previous episode, we did cover House of the Dead. There's a playlist. You can check that one out as well. And yeah, that's all I got. Have a good rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend coming up after that, and we'll see you next time.